Greetings and welcome to the Culture Ward, where we dissect and dismember pop culture in all its forms. Before we begin, please take a second to hit that subscribe button and help us grow the channel. Join the conversation in the comments below, and don't forget to like and share the video if you enjoy the content. Thank you for joining us once again for the weekly wrap-up, where we dive into some recent pop culture news without exerting too much effort. As always, let us know if there's any important stories we missed. Now let's get into it. Alright, I'm not going to go into the whole year of the franchise spiel again. We know 2025 has been non-stop sequels, reboots, and remakes, with studios capitalizing on brand recognition and nostalgia bait. And the biggest movies of the year fall right into that category, including two of the most anticipated reboots in recent memory, James Gunn's Superman and Fantastic Four: First Steps. Now, these two movies are from two opposing studios, Warner Brothers vs. Disney, developed from rival comic book publishers, DC vs. Marvel. They exist in different cinematic universes, the DCU versus the MCU. They have different tones and different stories, yet they also share striking similarities. First and foremost, they're both legacy comic properties brought to life on the big screen. Superman first appeared in comics in 1938 and basically launched the superhero comic genre, becoming DC's first recognizable hero. Fantastic Four first appeared in 1961, although the Human Torch was originally created in a different context in 1939 in Marvel Comics number 1, which was published under the Timely Publications label, Marvel's predecessor. Fantastic Four basically reinvented the comic genre, introducing storytelling that appealed to more adult readers, with characters that were more relatable and humanized, and they were Marvel's first recognizable heroes. Both Superman and the Fantastic Four have been adapted into live-action films before. Superman first appeared in a feature-length movie in 1951 with the low-budget B-movie Superman and the Mole Men, starring George Reeves. Then again in 1978, the Richard Donner-directed Superman premiered, starring Christopher Reeve as the titular character. That was followed by 3 direct sequels in the 1980s. After a 19-year hiatus, there was an attempt to reboot the series in 2006 with Bryan Singer's Superman Returns, starring Brandon Routh, and then again with Zack Snyder's Man of Steel in 2013, starring Henry Cavill as Superman. Cavill's Superman then appeared in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice in 2016 and Justice League in 2017 as part of the DC Extended Universe, or DCEU. Fantastic Four's first appearance in a feature film was supposed to be the Roger Corman-led, low-budget adaptation in 1994 by the German company Constantin Films, which was allegedly only made to retain their rights to the characters and which was never officially released. Then in 2005, after Fox acquired the rights, they produced the Fantastic Four, led by Tim Story, starring Ioan Gruffudd as Reed Richards, Jessica Alba as Sue Storm, Michael Chiklis as Ben Grimm, and a young pre-Captain America Chris Evans as Johnny Storm. This was followed by a direct sequel in 2007 called Fantastic Four: Rise of the Silver Surfer, with the same cast reprising their roles. There was an attempt to reboot the franchise in 2015 with the Fantastic Four, stylized as Fant Four-Stick, directed by Josh Trank and starring Miles Teller, Kate Mara, Jamie Bell, and Michael B. Jordan. It was, unfortunately, a crime against humanity. Both Superman and Fantastic Four are attempts to completely reboot the franchises and revive them as ongoing series. Superman, directed by James Gunn, brings in David Corenswet to play Superman/Clark Kent, with Rachel Brosnahan playing Lois Lane and Nicholas Hoult playing Lex Luthor. Fantastic Four reboots with Pedro Pascal as Reed Richards, Vanessa Kirby as Sue Richards, they're already married at the start of the film, Joseph Quinn as Johnny Storm, and Eben Moss-Backrack as Ben Grimm/The Thing. Both films also have a lot riding on their success. Superman is the first film in the new rebooted DCU under the leadership of James Gunn and Peter Safran, and is needed to build hype around the new cinematic universe after the rather unsatisfying performance of the prior DCEU. Similarly, Fantastic Four is kind of important. One, to rescue Marvel after a string of disappointments, including 2 other MCU movies released this year that both flopped, Captain America: Brave New World and The Thunderbolts, and 2, to launch Phase 6 of the MCU and build hype for the next big Marvel team-up movie, Avengers: Doomsday, which is currently scheduled to release in December of 2026, directed by the Russo brothers and featuring the return of Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom. In a sense, Fantastic Four First Steps is kind of relaunching the MCU. And finally, despite both movies receiving overall praise, being fairly well accepted by audiences and critics alike, the box office numbers, especially internationally, aren't looking too great. Heading into this weekend, Superman has brought in $300 million domestic, but only $225 million international, for a total worldwide gross of about $525 million. Fantastic Four, heading into its sophomore weekend, is sitting at $158 million domestic and slightly less than $100 million international, for a worldwide total of $257 million. With projections for the Fantastic Four to face a 55+% drop from its debut, it's expected to add somewhere between 45 and 55 million domestic. If the same holds true internationally, maybe an additional 40 million, bringing the totals to about 210 domestic and 140 million international, for a 2-week haul of about 350 million. At that rate, unless something changes, it'll be lucky to hit 500 million globally. The bottom line is that those numbers don't look great for what was supposed to be the two biggest blockbusters of the season, both of which are crucial to drive their respective brands into the future. Superman is tracking behind Man of Steel from 2013, which went on to make 670 million globally. Hell, the Fantastic Four is tracking behind even weak Marvel movies like Ant-Man Quantumania. And what seems to be killing both of these movies is those international numbers. Look at Jurassic World Rebirth, which is dominating both of these movies, currently looking at 728 million globally. And look at the breakdown. Superman is closing in on Jurassic World's domestic total already, but internationally, Jurassic World is crushing it, with the international proportion at about 57% compared to Superman's 42%. Likewise, look at Lilo & Stitch, which has crossed the $1 billion mark. And once again, look at those international numbers. 58% of the total sales. Fantastic Four's international numbers, so far anyway, are even worse, holding at about 38% of the box office. For some reason, people overseas just aren't watching Superman or the Fantastic Four. And it really is a shame, because both of these movies are pretty damn good in my opinion. Warning, some light spoilers ahead. Let's talk about Superman first. So, Rotten Tomatoes scores show about an 83% critic score and 91% audience score for James Gunn's latest effort. It's colorful, action-packed, fast-paced, and has a hopeful and uplifting message. It looks pretty good. Some of the effects are a little half-baked, but overall I enjoyed the visual style. It's very comic book-like. The story is a bit crowded. There's very little downtime, with the action rarely taking a break, and some of the emotional moments are interrupted with James Gunn humor. However, I will say, despite some critical reviews I've seen, I thought the humor was toned down a fair amount. This was much less James Gunn's Suicide Squad and more James Gunn Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Emotional moments did have room to breathe, for the most part, and a lot of the humor felt organic, character-driven. Most importantly for me, though, was Superman himself. While I take off points for the simplistic story, busy plot, and frenetic pacing, the character of Superman was really good. David Corenswet not only looks the part, he seemed to be channeling Christopher Reeve, and he did a good job embodying the noble, brave, and kind-hearted character that Superman is supposed to be. He is the protector of humanity, just and merciful, and James Gunn's Superman nails that character. I was a little less impressed with Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor, but I don't think it was his fault. He was too intense, too serious, too high-strung. I prefer a more Gene Hackman-style Lex Luthor, more in control of his emotions. And light spoilers here, as for the big controversial plot twist with Superman's birth parents Jor-El and Laura being space Nazis, while I hate that concept philosophically, I don't know if it matters in context of the movie. Either Lex or the engineer somehow altered the message, and it's all fake, or the Kryptonians, a super advanced civilization, considered humans to be a primitive race that would benefit from Kryptonian influence and some Kryptonian eugenics. But regardless of the truth, Superman is the better man. He has Earth morals, and he soundly rejects that way of thinking. So who cares what his ethno-fascist birth parents wanted? At any rate, I like the movie. I give it a 7 out of 10. Now to Fantastic Four First Steps. And once again, critics and audiences liked it, with a 86% critic score and 92% audience rating. A lot of people like this one better than Superman, and I get it. The first thing I'll say about it is how good it looks. I think, and this may be a little recency bias, that it's the best looking movie in the MCU, and one of the best looking movies I've seen, period, in a long time. The aesthetic, the 1960s retro-futuristic design, was really attractive and very well executed. The set design, likewise, making heavy use of practical effects, was rock solid, and even the shot composition, actual direction from the director, something that we usually don't even consider in these big spectacle movies, was impressive. Matt Shakman actually took the time to set up his shots and paid attention to detail in order to make a movie that is visually appealing all around. Even the special effects, something Marvel films in particular have been suffering from lately, look good, possibly due to the heavy mix of practical and digital effects. And man, Galactus, the first live-action depiction of him looking like the classic comic book villain, is truly a sight to behold. So from a pure visual standpoint, Fantastic Four is a winner. The plot and story are, basically, the story from Fantastic Four Comics issues 48 to 50 from 1966, the Coming of Galactus story arc, which is one of the best story arcs in comic history. They changed some things for the film, probably for the worse, but it was still a compelling enough story. There's a scene when the team flies to space to meet Galactus and negotiate. They fail, and their resulting escape from Galactus is one of the most riveting sequences in MCU history. Great action, great character moments, great direction. It's a little weird that Sue went on the mission, though, considering she was very pregnant, but the payoff of having her giving birth during an escape through a wormhole was an emotionally poignant moment and worth the suspension of disbelief. Not everything was perfect, though. First, let's talk about the female Silver Surfer. Her name is Shala Ball, and she is a legacy character in the comics. However, she is not the Silver Surfer. She appeared as the Silver Surfer in a few pages throughout 60 years of comics, but Norrin Radd was always the Silver Surfer throughout hundreds, maybe thousands of appearances, including multiple ongoing series of his own. After seeing the movie, I kind of get why they made her, so Johnny can have kind of a crush on her, I guess. But that whole plot point could have been rewritten to accommodate the actual Silver Surfer with about one page of changes. And she looks weird. Not only is the CG kind of unsatisfying, but she has hair. She has metal hair. It kind of flips up in the back, and it looks ridiculous. All that being said, it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things, but I still think the main reason she's there is for identity politics, so I do resent them for that. Also, Pedro Pascal is Reed Richards. I'm so sick of this guy. He's got to be the most overexposed actor in Hollywood, and he just comes across as creepy, unsettling even. He doesn't look like Reed Richards, and he doesn't exactly act like Reed Richards. But the way he's written in the movie, he does a fine job. As weird as he is, he actually knows how to act. The rest of the cast was great. Vanessa Kirby turned in a great performance. Joseph Quinn was a very good Johnny Storm, and Eben Moss Backrack does a passable Ben Grimm, even though we don't get enough of the Thing in this movie. Overall, the cast is fine. I do think that if they had cast anyone other than Pedro as Reed, the movie would have made more money, especially with families. I had some other reservations with specific scenes and plot points, such as Sue Storm's speech, Reed Richards' press conference, and the girl power moments near the end, but the good definitely outweighed the bad. I also give Fantastic Four First Steps a 7 out of 10. So which one did I like more, Superman or Fantastic Four? Well, neither. I know it's a chicken shit answer, but I like different things about each of them and dislike different things as well. They were both adequate adaptations of the source material, and both were thoroughly enjoyable big-budget summer fun time movies. The question is, will that be enough to carry these franchises into a successful future? For that, only time will tell. Well, what did you think of James Gunn's Superman and Fantastic Four First Steps? Which one did you like more? Join the conversation in the comments below. As always, thank you so much for watching the video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. Bye for now. We hope to see you next time in the Culture Wars.